What a day, what a night for Bud and the Huskers.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today.
All right, Sunday reaction pod. Connor Happerman Sherman here with you. Nebraska beat Houston Christian 59-7. It felt more like a spring game than a fall game. I guess you had the heat in there, so maybe from that. Usually it's colder at the spring game than it is in the early fall, but it was hot, and Nebraska won by 1 billion.
It did. It felt like the undercard, kind of, Connor. Yeah. Like there was something bigger that was coming later. Like that didn't feel like the main event on Saturday morning into the afternoon at Memorial Stadium. And we're going to talk about this game a lot today on this episode and what it means for Nebraska. But there was something bigger on the plate in the Nebraska sporting world, in the Nebraska Cornhuskers sporting world, as we will explain.
Yeah, Bud Crawford does it again. He does exactly what he always does. It doesn't matter who the fighter is. It doesn't matter what they say about him. It doesn't matter, really any of the underlying circumstances beyond it. He does the same thing every time. He sniffs fighters out, and he beat Canelo Alvarez on late Saturday night on Netflix and in Vegas in front of a heavy Canelo crowd. But there was a few notable Nebraskans like Matt Rhule and Troy Dannen in the house to watch, hopping on the PJ to get to the big Roomba in Vegas right after the game yesterday. Bud has a legit claim to best pound for pound fighter of our generation, and he is Omaha's own, which is the best part.
That's right. If you're wondering why we're talking about this, like if you're tuning in from somewhere in a faraway place on our map, look, Bud is a huge part of what Nebraska football wants itself to be right now. And that was evident by the shirts that the Nebraska players wore as they got off the buses in the loop on Saturday morning. Bud Crawford shirts. After the game, you had Matt Rhule giving a shout out to Bud. You had Dylan Raiola giving a shout out to Bud Crawford. Rhule, of course, as you mentioned, Connor and his wife, Julie, and Nebraska AD Troy Dannen. They got on a plane not long after the Nebraska game against Houston Christian ended. And be clear, like, don't worry. Matt Rhule was watching film on the flight to Las Vegas, and he will be back for Nebraska's lifting session on Sunday morning. But they were there. He had his red blazer on, repping Nebraska. We didn't see him on the Netflix broadcast. Star-studded ringside audience there for Canelo and Bud, and I was a little disappointed that they did not show Matt Rhule, but I don't know if he either didn't have close enough seats to the ring. Tyronn Lue showed up in the ringside seats, former Nebraska basketball player, NBA coach, but Rhule and Dannen were either sitting too far from the ring to get noticed by the cameras, or he's just not that level of celebrity.
Yeah, I'm going to go with both. It would have got a nice applause from the people who were in the building who were from Omaha, which I'm sure there were, or Nebraska, which I'm sure there were
some.
Several. In Vegas, but yeah, not famous enough and not close enough. From what Dannen's picture, it didn't seem like
they were ways back.
Yeah, in
good
that
seats. Good seats.
Yeah, good seats. Not in the upstairs or anything like that. Still lower bowl, but not as close as Mr. Beast and Jason Statham and those guys.
Did you think that Jason Statham was Conor McGregor? Like, could he play Conor McGregor in a movie?
Probably. Yeah.
There was some debate among the people watching in my basement here if that was McGregor sitting there at ringside. And then we got a clear view of him, and you saw that it was Jason Statham. Of course, Dana White was there. You had the Saudi Arabian promoter.
He got a nice applause before the fights.
Hey, he made it happen, man.
Yeah. Like he got booed. He got booed into oblivion when they were introducing everybody. So that was good. Yeah, the camera shots are hilarious because they last like 2 seconds and people react in between the rounds. But it's quite a spectacle. It's quite an event with a match of that magnitude. And as always, Bud met the moment yet again.
Maybe in 5 years, since Matt Rhule didn't make the cut to get on Netflix, maybe in 5 years, his quarterback, Dylan Raiola, who also shouted out to Bud, and I don't think Bud's going to be fighting in whatever fight happens in 5 years, but maybe it'll be Dylan, who has the cachet, who has the name brand to be able to get on Netflix or whatever service is showing one of these fights, sitting ringside in Las Vegas, and everyone will know who he is.
Yeah, if you become a good NFL quarterback, you're gonna put yourself within the realm of possibility for those things, which is good. But yeah, it was an excellent cap off to a weird day yesterday. I mean, red jerseys and the spring game like atmosphere. The starters are out by halftime, and then you figure out something else to do the remainder of the day, and you have to wait until what was it? What time the fight started? It was
almost midnight.
Yeah, it was well after 11 o'clock. Yeah, probably closer to midnight. So yeah, little sleepy morning probably this morning for a lot of folks.
That's why we're here bringing this to you somewhat mid-morning on Sunday, but it's reaction to what happened in Las Vegas last night, and of course reaction to what happened on the field. Despite the 59-7 score and the ho-hum kind of atmosphere at Memorial Stadium, I wouldn't say that it was quite as electric as what we had against Akron a week earlier. It's certainly nothing in comparison to what we're going to see on 2:30 this Saturday at Memorial Stadium with CBS bringing its show to town. Michigan is back on the right track after a 63-3 win against Central Michigan on Saturday at the Big House. So the Wolverines will be ranked. Rankings will be out later on Saturday. Nebraska will have its opportunity to take down a ranked opponent for the first time in 28 tries. Will Nebraska be ranked? Is that something that we should be on the lookout for later on this Sunday? Maybe if you're listening, it's already come out, but I don't know after playing the JV team of college football.
I'm going to say probably not. They keep kind of creeping closer and closer each week, but not at a steady enough of a climb to be ranked next week. So yeah, very likely they're going to be unranked, and Michigan will still be ranked, which is a good thing because, like you said, it presents an opportunity for Nebraska. The point spreads have kind of been moving a little bit as well. So we'll see what that one officially opens up as probably in the neighborhood of Michigan, just as a slight favorite at this point, but
field goal or less.
This is what we've been waiting for. I mean, we said this, or at least I said it at the start of the season. You look forward to the start of the season for 9 months, and you're like, oh my goodness, we plan and do all these things and get ready for that first game. First game happens, Nebraska kind of escapes with their life, and then I said it's going to be a long wait after that. This has been a long couple weeks. Nebraska has done exactly what it's supposed to do, if not more, over that period of time. They have rested their starters adequately. They have created a confidence in not only themselves and how they feel going into this game, but also a confidence in their depth, and what the future of the program sort of looks like. So now it's here. Michigan week part 2 is going to be the best Michigan week of all.
Okay. Yes, it's going to be great. Before we turn our attention fully to that, 2 questions for you to close this segment, to finish up with the Terence Bud Crawford conversation. One, I don't know what he does in the immediate afterglow of a win, and if it's different after that one because of the huge stakes and the ramifications. But will we see Bud back in the state this week at the Michigan game? or even perhaps, as I believe it was you who pontificated on social media on Tuesday night in downtown Omaha, as his two favorite college athletics departments clash in front of a packed house with Nebraska volleyball visiting Creighton volleyball at the CHI Health Center.
How Nebraska would that be? If volleyball is kind of Nebraska's thing now, the state of Nebraska's thing now, and it's going to be a celebration of volleyball in front of what looks like it's going to be another record crowd on Tuesday night. And then the Omaha's champion, Nebraska's champion, fresh off of the biggest fight of his career, shows up and just says hi. I mean, that's
the one thing that both of those fan bases can agree on. Well, other than Nebraska football.
Yeah, for some, but yes, everybody loves Bud. And so I would love it. I don't know anything about.
I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit too close. Like it's a little bit too quick of a turn, but we'll see. I'm sure.
You never know. Maybe he wants to show up.
Folks, I'm sure some folks down on the hilltop will be working on it. And then second, will he finish his career with a fight at Memorial Stadium?
I don't know. I don't know. He doesn't seem like he likes to obviously reward Nebraska because he cares about the state, but he also doesn't seem like the guy who would just take just wanted to fight a tomato can just to make a whole bunch of money, that kind of thing. So I don't know.
He deserves it after that.
But wouldn't that be a hell of a way to go out the way he just did?
It would, but you mentioned the money, and what he earned last night in comparison to Canelo was peanuts.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 million plus. I think it was probably more than that because he earned the victory, but that was his minimum pay, his guaranteed pay.
He's not done, but there's no super fight or anything like that on the horizon. At least not to my know. I don't know much.
He turns 38 in a couple weeks. I don't know. I mean, Troy Dannen is there. Not like he's making a deal with Bud's people, after the match, but he's been very clear that he wants big events at Memorial Stadium, and there's no bigger event that could draw a full house again to that venue. Nothing bigger than having Bud Crawford finish his career in at the 50-yard line on a stage. So I don't know. It's just something to think about, and there probably won't be anything even remotely concrete about that for several months.
Yep, no doubt.
One way or the other.
Yeah. We'll get into the game, what we liked, and if there was anything that we might not have liked coming back after this.
Right now, a quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what game would that be? Also, what hat would you be wearing? Yeah, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. These are not just hats. They're the same vintage styles fans wore back in the 80s and the 90s, which, by the way, were a pretty good time for Nebraska football. Maybe you'd go to an Oklahoma game. And guess what? These hats still go for the same price, amazing, that they did back then when you used the code Locked On. You'll get your vintage hat for $16.99. We have got some sent to us, and I can tell you, I like them. They're nice, great quality. Feel good on your head. They look good on your head. Head to GameCaps at caps.com. Grab your team's classic, bar, or retro circle design and use the code Locked On for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game.
And what a well-placed time to talk about 5-Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. The grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. So I will also go out on a limb here and say that maybe you're not golfing today. Nebraska fans, after a very, very long day and a very, very long night, this still works even when you're not golfing. You need that energy boost today. Maybe you could tell that Mitch and I are using our deep morning voices this morning. We could use a 5-Hour Energy. So jump on right now. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of both the clubhouse or, just regular, great tasting things without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA.
All right, welcome back. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you on this Sunday reaction pod, Locked On Nebraska. We should discuss the Huskers' victory on the football field a bit more in depth. Just domination, Connor, by Nebraska offensively and defensively. Houston Christian, as we expected, was not in the category to compete with the Huskers. Dylan Raiola and Nebraska starters did not play a snap in the second half.
Yeah, I wish there was anything to say. I wish there was anything to say that
there are things.
Individually, I think there's a bunch of really cool stories. I think probably the big one, I don't know. What is the big story individually emerging out of this game to you?
I mean, it's low hanging fruit, but I'll say Dylan Raiola. And even heard Matt Rhule just kind of take a little swipe in the post game press conference, something along the likes of, to paraphrase Matt Rhule, I don't know if a lot of people are going to notice, but he's playing at an extremely high level. Like he continues to go down this road about being frustrated that people aren't paying more attention to Dylan Raiola nationally.
He doesn't need to convince me anymore. I mean, I think he's probably talking about nationally, but from the fan base perspective, I think everyone's like, yeah, this is great. Now he does still need to. This game next week is a big game for Dylan Raiola.
Oh yeah,
right. people want to sort of get behind him and throw their full weight behind him. Beating Michigan and beating a ranked team, and that sends that into a different category. So you ain't got to convince me anymore. I'm good. He's one of the best guys in the Big Ten for sure, and probably in the top 15 or 20 nationally.
Right. And you could say higher than that. So he was 15 to 21, had a couple balls drop, threw a couple away in the first half on Saturday. Fourth nationally in completion rate at 76.6% through 3 games. He's trailing Miami's Carson Beck, Julian Sayin of Ohio State, and Dante Moore of Oregon. And that group, you can throw in a few others like Bo Pribula of Missouri, Fernando Mendoza of Indiana, Illinois' Luke Altmaier, Brendan Morton of Texas Tech. Those are the quarterbacks nationally who are playing the best right now here in late August and early September. It's not Arch Manning. It's not DJ Lagway of Florida, who threw 5 interceptions on Saturday at LSU. Granted, a lot of these guys have not played at LSU at night. That is it. Or is it?
He hasn't looked great. He hasn't looked great in the other games.
He lost to USF as well. This was the guy in Dylan's class who had been universally proclaimed as being the top quarterback in that second year class. It's not Cade Klubnik of Clemson, who was the consensus number 1 QB according to a lot of the offseason rankings. His team now 1-2 after losing against Georgia Tech on Saturday. So this is an interesting conversation as it unfolds. And for Dylan, I think a lot of people are right there. Like, he's got their attention. They've said, okay, you've thrown for 8 touchdowns, no picks through 3 games. You look really good. You appear to have command of this offense, this system that Dana Holgorsen has brought in. You're making smart decisions. The coaches have given you a lot of leeway, and you're doing impressive things with it. Let's see it now against a real defense against Michigan on a big time stage. And I think there's a significant portion of the college football audience out there that is not ready to go in on Dylan Raiola until they see him have the kind of performance that sets quarterbacks apart against a team like Michigan. And here comes his opportunity.
He's ready. Nebraska's ready as a team. I mean, they're probably as confident as they've ever been going into this game. So yeah, it's whether you like it or not, you can't run from it. I assume that'll be the message this week. To Nebraska inside that locker room, like, can't run from it. This is it. This is a big game, and for a lot of things, narratives. If you care about narratives, obviously wins and losses, your season, the playoff, like all of it. It starts here. And so this has a chance to be the seminal game for now in the Matt Rhule era and certainly the Dylan Raiola era.
Yeah, I don't think there's a blood moon this week, so Nebraska's going to have to find a different source of motivation going into Michigan, and that should not be hard. It should not be hard. This week is not one where you have to kind of reach. It's right there in front of you. Final look at Saturday. So Nebraska just kind of did what it needed to do. There goes the more of the Bud Crawford analogy. They just do what they do, and that's kind of Nebraska here in these past couple of weeks against the Sisters of the Poor. So third consecutive opponent held under 100 passing yards. Houston Christian gained 160 total yards. 45 of that came on one rushing play in the third quarter, which denied Nebraska a chance for a second consecutive shutout. Huskers were up 38-0 at halftime. That's when they decided this week to pull the starters, which I think was a wise move. Get them fresh, keep them fresh, get them ready for Michigan. It was a hot afternoon out there. 564 yards of offense. Huskers got the scoop and score TD. I think I predicted that from Williams Winery, 29-yard rumble to the end zone after Riley Van Poppel forced the fumble on the sack. By the way, I was watching Nebraska's defensive line warm up before the game in the corner of the end zone down there, hanging with Terry Braden and all of those D linemen, and they have the jacked linebackers with the inside guys. And I was thinking to myself, I was looking at Riley Van Poppel. I was looking at Williams Winery. I was looking at Keona Davis, Cam Lenhart. The shape of those players, like the size of those players, the athleticism and potential physicality of those players. I was like, this is what Nebraska wants and needs on the D-line. Wouldn't it be something if like two of these guys teamed up or one of them by himself just teamed up to make some kind of like a Sports Center worthy play? Because that's what you think of when you watch those players warm up. They don't look like, and Ty Robinson was a mountain of a man, a spectacle, but he was kind of out there as a lone wolf over the past couple of years. Nash, great player, but like he doesn't have that same kind of like imposing. I say this and like Nash is a huge person, but there's just a different kind of athleticism that you see when you look at Winery and Van Poppel.
Oh yeah.
And hey, they went out and made a play. So that was impressive to see. No turnovers for Nebraska for the second time in 3 games, and they did not punt for the second consecutive week.
Can I say something about Winery? So
you can say whatever you'd like.
Thank you. This is a podcast after all, I guess. So Rhule after the game, he was like, I got on Winery for picking the ball up the way he did. Mm-hmm. So to your point, there's something that just looks different, that looks cooler about guys like that, and it's sleeker and it's more athletic, obviously.
I think I know what you're going to say here, but
I like that he picked the ball up the way he picked it up. I think it looked. I think that added to the highlight effect of it and kind of ran with it with one arm for a little while. I thought that was cool, man. It was maybe the coolest part of the game.
Well, you know who it evoked images of?
Mr. Sue.
That's where he ran in for a scoop and score touchdown in 2008 against
Cody
Colorado.
Got murdered. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, same spot on the field. And I don't know that anybody really got on him about his ball security at that moment.
No. He spiked the ball by throwing it 1,000 miles an hour into that section below the South or the North Stadium.
He, at that point in his career, had a bit more cachet than what Williams Winery has right now. But if Williams continues on a track that he now appears to be placed on, like just moving in the right direction, in a couple of years, he might be at that level that we saw with Ndamukong Suh. And this is at the end of the 2008 season. So nobody's putting anyone on the level of Suh from the 2009 season. But
no.
Okay, let's come back. Yeah. Right. It's good company. Let's come back, finish up this conversation, and start to look a little bit toward next week. That is next on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. But right now, a message from Prize Picks. And this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. The regular season is here. It's week 2 in the NFL. College football is headed into week 4. Wow. Whether you have got your eye on big name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. I am ready to see today on this Sunday how Christian McCaffrey performs against the Saints. He's back in the lineup for the Niners. Lamar Jackson, watch him against the Browns this afternoon. Maybe it's Saquon Barkley against the Kansas City Chiefs later today. You can have them all on your side. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on a 2 to 6 player stat projection. If you get your picks right, that's it. You can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks apps today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in your lineup after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game.
And one more option for you here on this Sunday. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready to go for this upcoming week with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets, and you can use that across the app any way you like it. So how about a $5 bet on the Bears to lose today? That happens a lot. That's just an option for you. The Lions are minus 300 on the money line right now. It's that simple. Win that first bet, and then you got $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. What is there to lose, ladies and gentlemen? So jump in. There's plenty of options for you, of course, on a day like this. An NFL Sunday, Monday night coming up tomorrow, of course, as well. There's player props. There is anytime touchdown scores. It's all there for you on FanDuel. So sign up today. You are ready to go for your NFL season. Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com and get started today. FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. All right, welcome back. Connor Hepper, Mitch Sherman with you here on a Sunday. We'll have a regular week of pods this week coming up. Pre-Michigan game. We have finally arrived. Excellent.
We're going to have a guest. We're going to have a guest at some point this week. I think it's very exciting. So just keep your radars up for that.
It looks like there's some rain coming in at the end of the week.
Is that right? Real-time live weather tracking. What's the forecast for Saturday say, other than possible rain?
Well, okay, I should go to Lincoln, because the Lincoln people might get mad because Lincoln and Omaha are in different climates. So it says 74 and 50% rain on Saturday in Lincoln.
All right, we're going to keep an eye on that as the week goes on. That could impact things, but 74 sounds good. I don't like rain.
Yeah,
we'll
nice
see.
Late September night, but keep that rain away.
Yeah. Well, they do a light show at the end of the third quarter. It's going to be like 5:30 at that point. I don't think it's dark enough. Like they have done light shows before at 2:30 kicks, but it's been later in the season. I think the first actual light show, correct me if I'm wrong, was for the Michigan game in 2021.
Yeah,
and it was I believe it was a 2:30 kick, but it was later in the year, so the sun was down behind the press box. You can't control that. Troy Dannen cannot control that.
No,
do not send him emails.
Yeah, you can make the press box taller, or make it big.
True.
Put a dome and then put a cover on it or something like that.
If it's really rainy and dreary, maybe it'll block out the sun and they can have a light show.
Okay, maybe you got options. So what are we haven't talked about the game at all. Not that we've necessarily needed to, but we mentioned those individual, stories and developments that happened yesterday. What's the first one that jumps out besides Dylan, obviously?
Quentin Ives. How about that? Heard about him. They talked about him all through the offseason, had the nice showing. We scored a touchdown in the bowl game. Nebraska coaches were like, we got our number 2 guy. And then he had a hamstring injury. Learned from Matt Rhule on Saturday that Quentin had a hamstring that he was dealing with in the summer. And then that got re-injured in the first practice of preseason camp. We saw that happen. The media was out there when Quentin got hurt, and he just hasn't been able to get fully back to where he was because of the time that he missed in August. Well, there he was on Saturday in the third game of the year. 12 rushes for 85 yards, also caught 2 passes for 36. As we know, he's a bigger back, not the most nimble going side to side. He just kind of rumbles, but athletic, and he definitely gets north and south. He gave Nebraska what I think we spent much of the offseason wondering if the Huskers had another threat at that position, and it allowed Emmett Johnson to limit his reps. And Emmett had just 15 touches in that game, which is nice going into Big Ten season.
Yeah, I think what you've created there over the last couple of games here is obviously rest for Emmett, which I think is first and foremost the most important thing. So, Emmett is the starting running back because he's the best one, but he's also the most complete one. And so what you have in your guys that aren't Emmett Johnson in that room is a bunch of different types of players, which I think is a good thing, especially if one of them is not so much better than the other. Or any of the others. So, Mosey is a really interesting receiving threat out of the backfield and can run through some contact. Ives can run through some contact, but he's obviously more of a between the tackles guy, not as fast. And then you have Nelson, who was held out, for the most part on Saturday.
He was held out. Yeah, Rhule it was a coach's decision.
Yeah, that's so. It kind of seemed like the way he answered the question, or just from the quote, it seemed like it was kind of like almost like a load management, type of thing, but just like they didn't have a problem really sitting him down for that.
He said he was available, but I got the impression that it had more to do with just, I don't know, something away from the field of play. So
yeah,
clearly not anything major, because they would have played him if he was needed, and he was not needed. And Isaiah Mosey, quietly, unofficially, it seems, has shifted back into more of a slot receiver role. And I think that has a lot to do with the injury that Janiran Bonner suffered in the season opener against Cincinnati. So they're not using him, and they very well might in the Big Ten, but they're not using him right now in a tailback kind of role. So that's why the emergence of Ives is so important. You saw Kenneth Williams get into the game as the third back on Saturday, but we expect that Mekhi Nelson will be back and available, ready to go, with Ives as backups for Johnson this week against Michigan.
Yeah, I just think you're throwing some different stuff out there. So we'll see what it all comes to in a week.
They're going to need them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then again, second straight week, TJ Lateef is a story. Throws a bomb up to Cortez Mills, 5 for 526 yards. Is that still more than Mark Gronowski all season long?
No. He went off on Saturday against a very bad team from who is it that Iowa played this last week? I know Kirk Ferentz. Congrats
for a while, and I still
congratulations to Kirk Ferentz, UMass. He broke the all-time Big Ten coaching wins record. Of course, the Hawks wanted him to get that a week earlier at Iowa State, and that did not happen. So a little bit anticlimactic for him to do it against an 0-3, now 0-3 UMass team. But Gronowski, so look at this, 16 of 24, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So wow. Nice game for the first-year Iowa QB. And Iowa, since we're doing a little opponent watch stuff here, Iowa is going to open Big Ten play next week against Rutgers on the road on a Friday night in New Jersey. So that's interesting. I don't know. I didn't expect Iowa to win that game, but not real easy. And then they have Indiana coming to Kinnick on the 27th. So yeah, we're here, man. It's Big Ten season, which is just great after the way these last couple of weeks have gone. So Nebraska scored 113 consecutive points in these 2 games without an answer. Finally got an answer from Houston Christian. TJ Lateef was 5 of 5, 126 yards, threw a really nice deep ball into the wind that a throw that Dylan Raiola earlier in the game struggled to make. Maybe the wind was a little more stiff out of the south when Dylan threw it, or it just got out of TJ's hand very well. Threw it about 55 yards in the air, and ended up being a 62-yard strike to Cortez Mills for Nebraska's final points of the game. That was a nice-looking throw, man. Yeah. He continues to show us stuff. Last week it was, wow, I didn't realize he had that kind of quick twitch and escapability and like eyes in the back of his head kind of stuff against Akron. And then he really showed off his arm. And he accelerated and used his legs, Lateef did, when he needed to down near the goal line when there weren't any receivers open. He was back around the 10, 12-yard line on a dropped back, and he just took off and got into the end zone for a 7-yard TD. So he looks good, man. Could not have been a more perfect 2 weeks for him to get his feet wet in college football.
Yeah, it was windy too, and Dylan threw up a couple ducks. A couple of them ended up being caught. Quick shout out before we go to the defense. So you get 3 sacks, you get a couple turnovers in the game, which is good. Nebraska wins turnover battle 2-0 again. So Keith Mann had this in his notes after the game. Nebraska held Houston Christian to 67 passing yards after limiting Cincinnati to 69 and Akron to 62. First time Nebraska has held 3 consecutive opponents in fewer than 100 passing yards since 1990, when they did it 4 times in a row to start the year that year. So I don't think Bryce Underwood's going to come in here and pass for less than 100, but Nebraska's just done an excellent job of the defensive backfield so far.
Yeah, we're probably not talking enough about the secondary and the job that they're doing back there. They shifted Donovan Jones into more of a traditional corner role and put Sierra Wright at nickel. It's a matchup thing against Houston Christian, and they'll continue to kind of rotate those guys as needed. And they're versatile, and that's a great group for Nebraska, and they stayed healthy through 3 weeks of football. Rex Guthrie, the redshirt freshman, was actually Nebraska's leading tackler in this game. He's the backup for Singleton, Deshaun Singleton, I believe. So, yeah, that's an amazing stat. Bo Pelini never did that. As good as his pass defense was in his year as a DC and then years as a head coach, they never held 3 consecutive opponents, not just under 100, but they've held 3 consecutive opponents under 70 passing yards.
I have my updated drive chart that I keep. So Nebraska has faced 33 drives defensively so far this year. Obviously, they've only given up 3 touchdowns, and they have already forced 12 out of the 33 drives that they've faced have been 3 and outs, including most of them on Saturday. So that is 36% of their total drives are 3 and out, which is a very high bar to hit, and 60% of them end in punts so far. 20 out of 30.
I can tell you that 66 yards per game that Nebraska is allowing, you might be able to guess where that ranks nationally through 3 games. That is number 1 in the country. Nebraska has the number 1 rated pass defense. So there you go. Number 2 rated as a passer rating defense behind Arizona. So that's something to talk about this week for sure. And I'm sure it'll be a topic for Michigan as they have their pregame media availabilities, week of Nebraska media availabilities. Hey, you're going into another hostile environment where Bryce Underwood struggled in his road debut, and you're facing the number 1 rated passing defense in the country. Now, do I think that Nebraska is actually the best pass defense in the country? They haven't played the schedule. The Huskers haven't played the schedule that some other teams have. So we may not even know the answer to that question after this week against Michigan. But it's here. Michigan, final note here, blasted CMU 63-3. Underwood, the true freshman 5-star, had a huge game without Sharon Moore, the Michigan coach, who's now officially on suspension. Underwood, 16-25, 235 yards, 1 touchdown. And here's what really gets your attention. 9 rushes for 114 yards and 2 scores. So after that Brendan Sorsby experience in week 1, Nebraska's got a mobile quarterback coming into Lincoln. And the Wolverines, it's not just Underwood who can do it with his feet. They ran for 390 yards and 8 touchdowns in that game on Saturday at the Big House. So That's all you need to know. Michigan's ready for the trip to Lincoln. We are ready for the week ahead.
Oh, we cannot wait. It'll be interesting to see how Nebraska plays Underwood, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about that this week. All right, that's it for us. Back with you tomorrow. It's another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff each Thursday. Drake Toll, Jesse Holly, and Gary Patterson have you covered for College Football Kickoff each Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV.